God has just joined us in the com box. How are you doing? Everyone say something in the chat if you can hear him. I did earlier, so it's watch the stream back when you start and you'll see what I mean.
It's okay. You can't be a streamer in IRL if you don't get a big egg on your face occasionally.
Yeah, I'll consider it my rite of passage then, shall I?
You know you're a good streamer when it's happened.
Yeah, I was a bit distracted after a great Q3, but I ended up bottling my race massively.
I zoomed past Johnny B at one point. Maybe he remembers.
You got that Mercedes rocket ship engine or something. Well, fine. You were in a McLaren, so that's pretty apt, I guess. As Richard comes now to start his first lap in the Red Bull. Gotta be so careful in that turn too, because you think you can get greedy with the curb, but a bit like Japan, you take too much liberties and you'll just be spun out and you just lose your time completely. You've got a 22.5 for a first sector. How's High on Spice doing? Great to have you on board. And it just sort of comes one after another with all of these corners in Spain. But I have to say, when you haven't driven it for a while, it's a bit hard to get back into the swing of things, as I found practicing on this game. I'm not sure what it's been like for you with Spain, Sun God, but I'm finding it quite difficult to get back into the swing of things.
I don't mind it. You do have to get your setup right. Turn 3 is a bit of a pain. The rear end wants to step out. But, it's quite fun.
Well, we're coming up to probably the least fun part of the track, which is this god-awful chicane, which they're thankfully getting rid of. Can you tell I'm a bit passionate with that one?
I can.
When he comes... Well, we got the benchmark first from Richard. He comes across the line, and he sets an 18.6. So I think the next one... I think one in the Mercedes is coming across the line, which I believe is Kimi, who does a 20.2. So... yeah, I think he's definitely got a bit more time to find there. I think Flu is next in the Alpine. And 51.9 for a middle sector. 18.3, so the times are starting to come down.
I think Kimi would share your point of view. He didn't have a great third sector at all, so maybe he shares your opinion.
It's lovely to have you with us. Neaton does a 19 flat. I think Lonson is the next one, and yeah, he's had a very uncompetitive middle sector, so I don't think he'll be setting a competitive lap this time around. He's obviously backed off and saved his errs. Ferrari goes a little wide in the third sector. It's another Red Bull coming across the line, so I imagine that would be Richard likely to come into the pits. And there's IIRacingLeague on an outlap. Haven't seen him for a couple of races. So, interestingly enough, he's stayed in about 7th or 8th place when he's only done... I think he's done a handful of races when he started the season, but not that much recently. So, it's always nice to have IIRacingLeague back with us.
Word is, IIRacingLeague went into time trial about 10 minutes ago, grabbed the setup and joined the lobby. So if he's struggling tonight, that'd be why.
Well, his first sector... oh, and thankfully the wings. I think he just gets out of the way there. Wouldn't have cost him too much time. He's on the medium tyre, interestingly, so safe to say he'll have some time in his pocket. It looks relatively tidy, his sector, but is it quick? That's the crucial thing. .5. It's not the most competitive time we've seen. It's going to be down by about 2 seconds from what Flu did. Crucially, Flu did this left on softs. But I know Flu, in the nice way, hasn't been the fast qualifier. Look at how much time IIRacingLeague loses when he locks up on that chicane. I think Kimi, a lot of people want to say adios to that chicane. back through the order, see who else is on the lap. Let's go on board with Page, who's done a 22.3, so that's pretty quick in his Alfa Romeo. Obviously, as an Alfa Romeo driver myself, I've got to big up the Alfa Romeos in the field. Can you tell I'm not a slight tad biased there?
Not at all. Well, he did very well on Sunday.
You had a good race on Sunday as well, didn't you?
I wasn't as quick as you. I was going through that middle sector and you were like pulling out gaps. I was like, how is he doing this?
To be honest, I don't even know how I was doing it. I was just doing it. Let's go more with Deflated then. He's in a very tight battle for 4th place. He's level on points with Smiley and Joseph Hales. He's gone for the medium tyre, so he wants to save as many pairs of softs as he can. Ideally for the race, just in case there's a safety car. So we'll have that covered. Let's go on board with him and see how he handles the first sector. 10-10 goes fastest with an 18-1, the world champion. Not so much better saying that now. Oh, and just as I say that, Deflated will be feeling like his namesake after that particular slide.
He'll be feeling like a wee.
Hey. I'm sure he probably would have weed himself after that. Like, he may not be the fastest driver on the grid out there, but it's genuinely refreshing to see when he does do well. And just as you say that, he's gone a 10th up on his first sector time, straight from one sweeping right-hander onto the next sweeping left-hander. These corners come at you very, very fast, and it's all about just floating the car through and making sure that your exits aren't too compromised. And that's another terrible chicane within this track. DRS comes open into sector 2. Let's see how much time he's got. He's found another 3/10. This is looking like a much better lap for the Red Bull.
Asmafrog went P4. 18.5, just fine, Joseph. Pretty good going.
Strong lap for the Aston Martin, it has to be said. What can the Red Bull do as he comes across the line now? And it's an 18.8, so he actually lost a little bit of time in that last sector. Well, there's still more pace to come, I think, from Deton, and there's still Wiggles, Top Gun, Greg, and that guy who have still yet to set a time, as 10-10 and Joseph Hales have both retired. Let's see who else is out on a time lap. I think it's... Oh, as I say that, Wiggles just come across the line and done a 17.9, so he's clearly feeling that he's got something in his pocket. And Deflated Wee has invalidated and he's gone into the pits. I really can't wait, because like we haven't had the sweeper there in this new in this series of Codemasters games, have we? It's just been that chicane.
Yeah.
You see how much his rear end was twitching there, and did you see that again? That guy loses the back end straight away, and just as you were saying earlier, Sun God, the rear end just wanting to step out through that turn 3.
Yeah, that'll be a mix of setup and obviously the medium tyres not giving as much grip.
So for just reference for the audience, what would you say is the best setup around here? Because it seems like to me, some setups I recommend, you go about 30 or so in the wings, but you try to have a kind of a stiff diff. So what would you be your recommendation for a good setup here?
Well, it all depends on your driving style, what suits you. There are some drivers in this league that run very low front wing compared to rear wing, and others that run very low rear wing compared to front wing. I tried 40-35 and found that turn 3 was a nightmare, so upped it to 40-38 and actually found a bit more comfortability. That's not a word, but it is now. So you might see a lot of people running 40-30 something on the rear.
it feels like a track that probably benefits you if you have a very understeery driving style, because as you mentioned there, if you got, it sounds like, because if you're going lower on the rear wing, then you got to do more policing of the car through those longer turns, because you don't necessarily have the rear downforce to compensate. So if you've got a bit more understeer, you could throw it in more at the front end, and then the rear end can more or less take care of itself. That's how I found, like, in some of these time trial setups, and to be honest, that was something that helped me out massively in Portugal.
That is exactly what I did for the race on Sunday. I was running 28-20 wings, actually changed it to 26-23. Give myself a bit more stability at the rear, a bit more understeer, a bit more balance in the car.
I think I have very similar wings, and I still managed to bottle it. IIROS J goes fastest. Good time to segue from that.
Can't talk about bottling, you smashed that pole out.
Well, not mean to sound smug, as Top Gun goes faster with a 17.3. I mean, that's probably my best Q3. I mean, to take pole by 0.3 of a second.
Joseph. Bookie's favourite to win this one tonight.
Definitely the super sub, as he's been somewhat known as throughout this league. I think Damon is coming across the line here. I think he's going to be a little bit down on this best, but finds an extra second's worth of time. So in the drop zone currently, we've got Kimmy, that guy, and Deflated Wee. But as I say that, Deflated Wee, yeah, I think it's safe to say he's going to improve on this time.
Went past the spinning Alpine, that'll be Longson or Fluke.
Now, if it's an Alpine, it would have been Fluke, because Hales is retired. So, not how you doing, Novatech? I wouldn't call you Mr. Bottle Tech. I will call you Mr. Jumpstart Tech. It's a Deflated Wee goes 5th with an 18.3.
A whole second off of Top Gun, people will abuse. This happens so many times with the Spin God.
Yeah. To be fair, you've got almost the best and the worst note, because you could be the god of anything, and that kind of depends on what happens in the moment.
Pretty much, and it's both really nice that I have a versatile gamer tag, but also really horrible that people violate me.
Well, speaking of time lapse, let's go on board with Kimmy in the Mercedes, who's coming. Deflated Wee says his lap honked.
That is a great way to describe your lap.
I'm not sure what that means. You're gonna have to explain that one to me.
It means that he's got a goose in the cockpit with him, and the goose honked.
Oh dear. Well, Kimmy's 2/10 up on his best as he goes through turn 4 into turn 5, and he turns in probably a bit too early in that Mercedes, which does compromise his apex speed down into the awkward chicane, and it just loses the back end there, really stepping out through into turn 7. He goes, well, not turn 7, into 7th gear, right, and he goes wide, so that's going to be curtains for the Mercedes in this particular lap. Oh, Kimmy's going to miss out as well, so that's the Mercedes definitely out, and that guy likely out if he can't go above Greg. So Longson has crossed the line, so he's definitely out. So it's just a case of riding the ball with the Williams now, see what it does. Richard goes 3rd with a 17.9, very good lap from the Red Bull, but it's all about the Williams, and he is currently a 10th down. He's already at 9% energy. I think that's it for him, don't you?
Well, I'm watching Sano. He did a lap previously, but backed off halfway through. So he did manage to improve by 9 milliseconds on that run, but he did it with only half a battery. But he is through anyway.
Well, coming up into Sector 2, that guy is 4/10 down on his best. So it really depends on what kind of sector he has in the 3rd. He's only got 6% worth of energy left. So unless Sorry, go on.
The fact he's done a 1 minute 29 means this third sector might actually be the sector that gives
Oh,
him
he's
time.
lost it.
Oh, well,
Ah.
it's amazing what pressure does to you sometimes.
And I'm just gonna say it to the chat before I say it. Commentator's curse is not a thing.
I mean, it's not hard to do a commentator's curse on the one driver that we're watching. No one else was at risk.
And anywho, these are the 15 that have gone through. We'll just take you through the 3 that have gone out. That is Longson, Kimmy, and that guy who, thankfully, there's no 107% rule, so he'll be able to race. So we've got 3 people out, with the next slowest 5 to be eliminated in Q2. So just before we'll go into qualifying, have you been hearing the news about Imola, Sun God?
No.
Well, there are floods happening in the Emilia-Romagna area, and they had to evacuate the paddock.
Oh. But it's like when Ross Brawn stepped into the role he has, he did it with one intention in mind, to make the racing closer. That's the ultimate goal. But obviously it makes it very difficult when a team actually nails their car and are so much faster ahead of everyone else.
I remember Matt and Tommy from P1, they were talking about potentially F1 going to a spec series race. Now, yeah, it would make it closer, but in no way on earth would that ever happen. I mean, that will put Adrian Newey out of a job.
Probably won't happen, but there are some things we thought would never happen. With the hybrid engines, no one thought that was possible 20 years ago.
That is very, very true. And the fact that no one can make... To be fair, no one can still make 3 engines last. But at the same time, they have, to your point, they have come very far in terms of reliability and performance. And speaking of performance, let's go back to Asperfrog, who's done a 52.6 for a second sector. F1 Spec Series is called F1 League Racing, which, to be fair, if it does come to a spec series, for those of you new, you can just come watch IIRL. There's so much more fun, isn't it, Tim? The Asperfrog comes across the line, and first benchmark is a 19.2. So not quite there. Greg goes second with Blue fastest now with an 18.3. It's more or less on par with what he did in the first qualifying session as Top Gun comes across the line, does a 17.5. Couple of tenths off his best in the first qualifying session, but you sense some more time to go. And Iros J now goes fastest with a 17.4. The times are starting to tumble a little bit. I think D-Ton is next to come across the line. Mercedes behind him of Mr. Wiggles. Yeah, I wouldn't say that's the most competitive time. Wiggles goes third with 17.6. It's an 18.1, so about 5 tenths off Mr. Wiggles, so I'll say that's a fairly respectable time. Joseph Hales is starting his qualifying lap, so let's go on board with him. And he has had a season where he had a little bit of inconsistency, but when he has got the results, it has been very satisfying to watch. And given the battle he's got with Smiley and Deflated at the moment for 4th place, he can't leave anything on the table, especially when it comes to qualifying. He's at a 22.0 for first sector time. Very strong there from the Alpine. This goes down into the left-hander for sector 2. Up to the awkward chicane. How does the Alpine take this? Very well, it looks like. Into the sweepy right-hander before DRS zone opens up. And the Alfa Romeo gets out of the way, thankfully. And he's done a 51.4 for a second sector time. This is looking like a very quick lap from the Alpine, who now sweeps round the right-hander, upshifts early to 5th, just to give him the traction, into the awkward chicane section, which we're not going to see of anymore next year. Into the left, now into the right. Don't be too greedy with the curbs. Straighten up the car, floor the throttle into the outside. What is the Alpine going to do for a time? He comes across the line right now, and he goes fastest with a 17.2. That's the fastest time we've seen so far in this qualifying round. Brilliant lap. Absolutely brilliant.
Marginally up by a couple of hundredths on Ross in the first sector. Beat Ross by just under a tenth in the middle, and in the final sector beat him by under a tenth again. So all purple sectors for Joseph.
Ken's just done a 51.4 for his second sector. This is going to be close. And he just misses out by 5 thousandths of a second. The world champion, like, showing no signs of slowing down despite having already claimed the title. Seriously, once you become no assist tier champion, where do you go from there apart into the IIRL Hall of Fame?
Well, judging by Ross, you spend the next season as a reserve.
That's like saying That's like saying. Can you imagine if they said to Max Verstappen, "If you've won 3 championships for Red Bull, now we're just going to make you a reserve for AlphaTauri." See how the Alpine takes the first corner. Oh, it doesn't look the tidy. He didn't track extend too much, to be honest. I think that just ruined his line going into the corner. That will have cost him plenty of time. He comes across the line, he's 2 tenths down on his best as a result. Unless he can find some extra time, it's not looking like a good lap for Flew in the Alpine. Oh, backhand getting away from him, and that is it for Flew. Spins out there, and I think he may have damaged the front wing. Of a second splitting you both in the first sector. That is so close. Sano goes a 10th up on his first sector time. Into the next sector he goes. Takes the long left-hander. Joseph Hales retires from the session, obviously feeling that his time is good enough. Sano's 5 tenths up on his best. So he's looking good for potential 12th place at the moment. But he's got to find a little bit more time than that. So 10-10 and Top Gun have also done the first sector. So the same first sector. That's incredible, it has to be said. Sano didn't take that chicane as tidy as he ideally would have wanted. He comes across the line in any case. It only goes 14th with that time. Ferrari's still got to find a little bit more time, it has to be said.
Did his run about a minute ago, finds himself 11 milliseconds in the drop zone.
Just behind Padge, and he's 500ths down on his best. Crucially on a fresh set of tyres, so everyone's been struggling in Sector 3. Maybe this is where Padge can make up the time. Oh, it's relatively tidy. Oh, but he goes wide and he's invalidated on the last corner. That is pain.
Wiggles just went third with the 17.3.
It's looking close now between the top 3. They're only separated by 0.035 seconds.
And it's in the practice lobby and then joins the race lobby and wins the race. It's just Ross.
In other words, alien. And that was looking much better from Flew with the way he handled that first sector. Hopefully that's brought him a little extra time. He's still down on his best though by 0.03 of a second. Wiggles retires from the session. From 4th down to 7th.
Man. Dayman into 9th, half a second improvement on his PB. Pushes Padge in the drop zone as things stand.
Van Flu's gone off, so he's in danger now, in real danger of being cut off. And Deton goes wide as well. So I don't know whether he was trying to avoid the Alpine. I don't know whether they were just getting into each other's way. Got Asperfrog as the next one to come into the gate, to come into a lap. Takes way too much curb and hits the sausage curbs on the inside, and he backs off. I think quite sensibly though, saved the rest of the lap. With Greg in the McLaren.
I was going to say, I'm not sure how safe Richard is on that 18-1, but just come across the line, 2/10 faster, ahead of Smaller now. So a little bit more security for Richard there.
He's only 4/10 ahead of... Oh, sorry. Oh, no, and Greg goes round. And that's it. That's curtains for Greg's qualifying. He's out. Smaller Smiley on another round. It'll have to be a quality lap, and that would just kill his tyres. Smaller Smiley is nearly a 10th up on his best. Now, he's in a close fight with Hales and Deflated Wee, but looks like Hales has, I think, got them beaten on the qualifying pace. It just depends how they can hold it together in the race. If he can beat Deflated Wee, that'll be some consolation, I bet. No, but he matches his best second sector time. And Greg has gotten round, you're right. And Smaller Smiley has gone round. Damon comes into the pit, so he's not going to get any further. So Padge is up on his best. Asthma Frog is invalidated, so that'll be it for him. Greg is also on a timed run. What about Sano? He's down. But now he's found an extra 3/10. He's got to find a little bit more in this final sector, and he should be able to push Flu out and get himself a place into Q3. But you've got about 3 or 4 other cars up there on a time lap. This is going to be very, very close.
Deton's 4/10 up through the middle, across the line, needs another few tenths. Doesn't quite get enough, exactly the same time as
Padge's
Padge.
time, though. And Sano goes
P6.
through with 17.7. Lovely lap.
Lovely lap.
Padge is only a 10th up. It's not going to be enough. Now. Yeah, it's not going to be enough to get through, is it? He comes across the line. And it is enough.
Wow.
Greg's only 10th up, but he comes into the pits. So, there we have it, folks. Padge is through into Q3. Things we love to see.
Yeah, it did say Damon and Richard on those 38-1s. Not sure how safe they would be in the end. It was a 38-1 that was the cutoff. An 18-1, sorry, not a 38-1.
38-1. Are you sure you're at the right track? You sure you're not on Valencia?
Oh, I wish I was. Great track.
In the track that got Michael Schumacher's last podium. But anywho, we'll talk about that later. So there we have the times for Q2. As you can see, I imagine we'll see a 1 minute 16 at some point. But going out in Q2, we have Damon in the AlphaTauri, Flu in the Alpine, Deton in the Red Bull, Asperfrog 14th in the Aston Martin, and Greg is 15th in the McLaren.
5 out of the 6 Ferrari-powered cars in Q3.
And as I say that, he's actually on a new set, so I think I need to put the egg back on my face. Yeah, check out the start of the stream and you'll see what I mean by that. Do you want to commentate this lap?
Why not?
Go for it.
10-10 then. Scottish Supernova, already title winner back in APS days, before IIRL was birthed. Champion again after a good 5 or 6 seasons.
Oh, he's
and
lost
that
it!
huge mistake. Well, just a little mistake, corrected it, and then before you correct it, you got on. And that just shows, doesn't matter how good you are at this game, everyone is prone to a couple of small errors now and again.
Do you think he would have damaged his front wing without his rear wing, rather? I'm so used to saying front wings. I'm really bad.
It was only a slight tap. I'd be very surprised if he had rear wing damage.
Well, if it is that case, then it's 51-4 for Joseph Hale. So he's matched what he's done in Q2. This looks like to be a very quick lap, so we might see another 17-2 here from the Alpine into the chicane, but he understeers. It goes a little bit wide off the apex. That would have lost him a couple of tenths for sure. How you doing, Steely?
Evening. Oh, there's an Alfa Romeo around in Sector 3. That'd be Patch. And he's beached.
He's beached it?
He has. He's beached it on the little left-hander in Sector 3.
It looks like he's gotten out now.
Yeah, he did a reset to track. That's okay. If you beach, you can
for Top
reset.
Gun.
Wow.
I did say it was coming, didn't I?
He did indeed, and there's no glass ceiling in this tier. You can go as quick as you like.
Top Comms team mods. Oh, thank you. That's really nice of you to say, Steely, from my Alfa Romeo teammate. So for those you can tell, he's not biased at all. Smiley's still got a set time lap. He has a 51.7, so a little bit off what Joseph Hale was able to do. He just needs to have a better final sector than he did. And he should be able to get himself to about 4th place. It's looking a pretty good time here from Small to Smiley. As I say that, it's only good enough for 6th place, which is more or less on par with Deflated Wii. So we've got Padge and 1010 still yet to set a time. But Top Gun, I mean, that's the benchmark, isn't it?
Well, his name was Mr. Biggles, but thanks to some ingenious commentating by myself, he changed his name to Mr. Wiggles because that's what I called him.
Well, I think it's only appropriate with the man with the most interchangeable name on the planet is able to brand people in such a way. Then here, we're going to go on board with Mr. Wiggles as he comes across the line to start his lap. And everything engaged. So this is going to be the last qualifying session of the last 5 minutes where we'll have to put up with qualifying, and that god-awful chicane one last time as he goes through into turn 1. Turn 2 just about gets away with it. It's almost easy to slip on those curbs. However, the rear end seems to be very compliant with the Mercedes coming through into the end of the first sector. He's a 10th up in his best, so it's a 22.0. So it's more or less on par with what Joseph Hales was able to do. So in fact, you could see this as a low minute 17, as you see he takes a late apex in, but gets a very good exit as well, which launches him into the next chicane over here. But what does the rear end do? It's very compliant with him, so that it looks like that he's got that car absolutely hooked up where he needs to be. And he's invalidated as soon as I say that. Completely ruined my... You know what? I'm going to blame Wiggles for ruining my flow there. Because
And 1010's made a mistake.
Again?
22.0 in the first sector. Through turn 5, that slowish left-hander went super wide. And out of turn, I think it's 8, the blind right-hander up the hill had a bit of a spin. So 1010 struggling.
Crikey. A Top Gun has found a 10th up on his best time.
.21.9 in the first sector for Top Gun.
Alien. Absolute alien. Is he on wheel or pad?
I believe he's on wheel.
Interesting to know which one. And he's lost a little bit of time, but he's still up on his best nonetheless. Can he get into a 1 minute 60? Can he get into a 16.8? I wonder. You'd think so. This comes across into the chicane. The pole sitter currently really establishing his dominance over the Catalunya circuit. Into the final corner he goes, and has he done enough to improve his time?
What a lap! What a lap!
That is disgusting. That is disgusting.
If you're catching up on this stream, rewatch that third sector. It was utterly flawless. And if you want to know how to get quick at this track, watch Top Gun's last sector. That was utterly perfect.
That was absolutely insane.
He gained over 2/10 in that final sector alone.
He's 8/10. He's 7.5 tenths above the nearest challenger. As Richard loses the back end in his Red Bull, I think everyone's starting to struggle in these last few qualifying minutes.
Richard had a great middle sector, but then, as you say, right as you went on board with him, he lost traction.
No. Yeah, spectators curse. Yeah. Can you tell I'm just a massive child inside?
No, I can't tell.
Let's see what Pad... And Top Gun's retired. He's like, alright, Pad just done a 51.9, so that's looking very good from Pad, isn't it?
Yeah, not bad. Needs to hook up this last sector, though. Trickiest part of the lap.
Takes a bit too much curb, though.
It won't cost him too much taking that much curb. It may cost him a little bit.
It's only
and
good enough
that little bit possibly cost him a potential 5th place there.
Yeah, it's got to be said. 10:10 looks to be starting his lap now. Joseph Hales is on his lap. That's deflated wee. Smaller Smiley's gone 2/10 up on his best. He could be on for a good one in the Alfa Romeo. Let's stick on board with him. Rear end really want to step away there. 51.5. This is looking good. And that looks relatively... That looks tidy, doesn't it, from the Alfa Romeo as he comes across the line. And what does he do? Goes 4th with that, with 17.6. Very strong lap.
22.0 for 10:10 in the first sector. Only a 10th off of Top Gun.
Only a 10th off. Richard comes across the line and finishes 7th. Joseph Hales is the next one to come across the line, so we'll stay on board with him. $17.1.
And another mistake from 10:10.
Wow. 17.4 for deflated. Who's next?
This might be 5th for 10:10. And it is.
You called that one, mate.
And
Oh,
Wiggles
has
has
gone
spun.
round. And he's damaged his front wing.
Best is P7 for Wiggles. Bit of a shock.
Well, this is the point. This is the race where he really needs to take some points away from John going into the season finale in Japan, and Ross has lost it. Some consolation for him. He was in 3rd place there, but by around half a second, Top Gun has taken pole position. I think that's probably the most dominant qualifying we've seen all season.
Wiggles, I think you should call your cat John. Your cat has sabotaged you so much this season.
After that qualifying session, it may make him reconsider. So there we have it, folks. There we have the top 10 for the Spanish Grand Prix. We have Top Gun, who takes pole by 0.4 of a second ahead of Joseph Hales. IIRacingLeague goes to third for the Ferrari, with Deflated Wee a strong fourth in the Haas. 1010 is only good enough for fifth in the Williams, with Smaller Smiley sixth in the Alfa Romeo. Mr. Wiggles only good enough for seventh, and sadly ruined his front wing in seventh. Richard is in eighth for Red Bull, with Padge a respectable ninth, and Sano, who couldn't quite hook up a lap together, sits in 10th.
Only Top Gun's second pole position in this league. Around 30, 32 races now, and second pole position.
Well, I mean, that certainly is one of the finest, isn't it?
It was a really impressive lap though from Joseph to get low 17.
Mm-hmm. It's for everybody coming into the photo round. Just to remind everybody what's to play for. So as you can see on your screen, with John not racing, that will make 1010 the champion. So it's a close fight between John and Wiggles now for third. But with Wiggles qualifying 7, he's got a lot to do to take some points away from his rivals. 16 points is the gap between second and third. Both 4th, 5th and 6th, there's all 127 points in it for them. They're all on that same total. With that guy in a close battle with IIRacingLeague for 7th and 8th in the championship standings. With Flu, who went out in Q2 starting in with 9th. And Top Gun, who's only got 67 points, who's only done a few races, and is sitting in 10th place. And he's currently taken pole position by country miles. So that is something to certainly be celebrated. Actually, with the constructor standings, it's a clean sweep for Williams. They have taken the constructor standings thanks to 1010 and that guy's efforts. It's still on between McLaren and Mercedes, and with the McLaren on pole position at the moment, you can bet the Papa orange cars from Woking are kind of the hot favourites to take that second place at the moment. Alpine sitting fourth with a close battle against Haas and Red Bull, with Alfa Romeo sitting in 7th, with Ferrari in 8th, Aston Martin in 9th, and AlphaTauri sitting in 10th. And as you can see on your screen at the moment, as you will see, all of our races are edited and uploaded onto YouTube. So if you enjoyed the race and you want to catch our highlights, then make sure you get subscribed to our YouTube channel. We would love to have you on board with our little community that we're building here. I mean, hopefully we get a little bit closer to a few more thousand subscribers. And well, more importantly, guys, we're just happy to have you guys as board of the community. So once again, thank you all for joining us and supporting the IRL channel where you can. And I hope you enjoy the race as it comes up. We've still got a few more seconds to go, a few more minutes to go until we start the race. So with the championships all wrapped up, it's all going to be the last little bits of glory as we come up to 5 red lights. And the Spanish Grand Prix, round 17, is underway, and the McLaren looks like he's got a brilliant start indeed. It's a long run down to the start-finish straight. However, it looks like Deflated Wee's going to get the jump on all of them. He goes down to the inside, jumps into second place. It's not the best start for the McLaren. Can he get around the outside as O2? And there's contact at the end of turn 2. Deflated Wee has been spun, and Top Gun has dropped all the way to the back. Just as I say that, and just that 1010's been involved in there as well. Absolute carnage, you're right. So 1010 off, Smaller Smiley off, Lonson, Richard, Top Gun, that absolute madness at the moment. And just getting back to where we are with the start, I almost forgot to set everything because it's just been absolute chaos. As you've just mentioned, a lot of people starting on the hards, and IIRacingLeague, who hasn't driven this game for about a month or so, is sitting pretty in second place. That was absolute chaos.
So Deflated's down 3, Top Gun down 12, Flu is down a couple of places, Richard has lost 7 places, Smaller Smiley 11 places, and 1010 all the way back 13 places so far. The big gainers, Asthma Frog and Kimmy, both up 9. That guy, obviously, a shock exit in Q1, is already in 11th place.
So order changing all the time around here, and that guy comes into the pits, as you say, that as does Flu, as does Richard, so they've obviously got damage, but IIRacingLeague is taking the lead. Didn't quite see that move, so apologies for that, but the Ferrari, being absolute merchant that he is, and 1010 comes into the pits as well. He's obviously retired, so championship winner is out of the race, and that leaves the last little bits of glory to go between IIRacingLeague, Hales, and Wiggles. It's a dream start for Wiggles, isn't it?
Certainly is. Everyone in that pit changed their front wing, so they got caught up in that drama in the first couple of corners.
I never thought I'd be such an influence on this league.
Cue the Spark commands in the chat.
Go on, guys, do your worst. As you see, both of the Ferraris had a good start. Saino obviously on the medium tyre, but they're leaving Asthma Frog for dead back there, who is battling very closely with Deflated. And I wonder, it doesn't look like the Haas has gotten any damage at all, so could be a very lucky escape there for Deflated Wee. And looking at him, he goes down the inside in the chicane.
Oh.
What a lovely move there from Deflated Wee.
May have to collect that one.
Yeah, I think that's one for the overtake of the season stream, mate.
So Wee, 2 seconds now off the top 4. Can he gain into DRS?
Which has been enabled at this lap. Steely with the Spark
Make it top
commands.
5. Kimmy catching Padge. Kimmy on the mediums, of course. Padge on those slower hard compound tyres in this stage of the race.
It's the hard to mediums is almost the most predicted strategy within this meta, isn't it?
It is the quickest. Those mediums in the second stint are so much quicker than the hards in the first stint. In the second stint.
I wonder if Max Verstappen played the game and thought, you know what, I think I'll do this for the Miami Grand Prix. Coming to DRS, and that was a bad exit there from Joseph Hales. So he's going to go from the attacking IIRacingLeague to defending against the Mercedes, who is only 3 or so tenths behind as he comes into the start-finish straight. But it looks like he's going to have that more or less covered as you see he's pulling away. And it looks like we got that guy. This is a disastrous race for both of the Williams. And I think he might have beached his car there, so he's had to reset.
Give me past Padge. Top Gun made a move on Greg as well at the end of sector 2, previous lap. Greg, think just decided to let his teammate through that.
Yeah, it made sense.
They are too much of a fight.
They are in a close battle with Mercedes for the Constructors' Championship, so it makes sense for Top Gun, who's got plenty of pace at the moment to try and claw his way back through the field, which certainly isn't impossible for him. Back up to the leaders. Looks like Deflated Wee is gaining on the top 4. The gap now 1.8 seconds between himself and Sano. Let's just see up front, they're all starting to bunch up. Sano crucially on the medium tyre. So let's go on board with Joe Hales and let's see how powerful the DRS really is around here. So it's about 4 tenths an advantage he could gain. So it really needs to be about 5 or so tenths before he realistically tries a move. And as you can see, Top Gun makes his way past Damon in the AlphaTauri. The McLaren back up to 9th.
And Padge off. Exit of turn 2, lost traction, and unfortunately that is a full course safety car.
Wow.
Debris on track.
Full course safety car, and more importantly, because that's the only thing that only matters here, he's lost his front wing. Of course, I'll be picking up on that.
But we had no full safety cars last week at Portimao, so maybe this is the week where we get them all.
Maybe that's just where the FIA have come to claim their part of the deal. So crucially, would it be beneficial for those on the medium to switch to a 2-stop right now?
It's a good question. I doubt hards can make it the rest of the Grand Prix. I mean, you could probably nurse them the rest of the way. So those on mediums right now might be licking their lips. But certainly mediums will not go 28 laps. I can bet my racing career on it.
Well, let's see what Deflated Wee does, because unless he comes in again, he may be the first person to prove you wrong. He comes into the pits now, and it looks like he's going to chuck on the medium. He's going to chuck on the hard tyres. I beg your pardon. He'll have some time to get those tyres up to speed in the safety car. However, with Smaller Smiley, Deaton, and Padge all coming into the pits as well, that means they're going to get out just ahead of the Aston Martin. So it's only 10th place for Deflated Wee. He hasn't lost out that much in reality.
So imagine Deaton's onto a 2-stop, medium. And I imagine Padge is onto a similar strategy after being held up slightly by his teammate Smaller.
Yeah, but he'll have to go to a 2-stop. That's a pole. Will Sun God be retiring again after this race?
I'll do a different poll for you.
Go for it, mate. Actually, no, I'll get onto it later, because the safety car is coming in at the end of this lap. I think Sano's looking pretty good for the restart, because he's on the mediums, which you can fire them up very quickly compared to the hards. It all just depends. With Top Gun actually now sitting in 6th, so all of that carnage at the start of the race has been more or less undone for him. And we know him, he's got the pace to potentially win this Grand Prix. However, people at the front that we're going to have to worry about more than anything. And IIRacingLeague looks like he's gone. Yes, he has. He's gone. And he's lost it!
Spun!
I don't believe it!
Oh, that guy spun!
What is going on this race? But anyway, we're back at the front. Mr. Wiggles goes up into 2nd. However, he holds on to 2nd, and Top Gun now goes back up to 4th. It's all just falling back into his pocket right now, isn't it? And the Wiggles has gone off!
My words. Both Mercedes having horrible restarts. Kimi went so far wide he had to take to the gravel on the final corner of that restart.
And he's lost his front wing, crucially. Top Gun is now in 3rd.
And Padge struggling as well on this opening lap.
He's dropped all the way, yeah, he's dropped down to 15th. And crucially, he's behind Wiggles, who doesn't have a front wing. Steely straight away with the spark commands. Very good. Deflated, go around Greg as he tries it round the outside of the McLaren. He's got some room and he looks like he's just made it. What a move from Deflated Wee. That's another one for the overtake stream. Love all that.
I'll have to rewatch that.
Top Gun spun!
Did you say Top Gun or Sun God?
No, Top Gun.
I thought you said Sun God spun.
No.
I was like, fair enough.
I know you got the PTSD of spinning in your head, but I wasn't going to go for it there when you're not even on the track. As IIRacingLeague goes down to the inside of Smaller Smiley, he now moves back up into 9th as the McLaren, who was all coming back into him, is now dropped back out of the points. What on earth is going on this race?
I'll tell you exactly what's going on. Every single member of management in this race has made a mistake tonight.
Every single member of management, did you say?
Yep.
Maybe that's the manager's curse as far as spectators.
Ross, Smiley, Padge, Wiggles, 1010. All of them have made mistakes.
I can't believe this is only the 9th lap of this Grand Prix. So much has happened. But in any case, Deflated is now 5/10 behind Damon, who's struggling in his AlphaTauri. DRS has now been enabled at the start of this lap. Is the Haas going to go for an overtake here? He knows he's got a massive fight with Joseph Hales for 4th here. Haas goes down to the inside. And just like that, Deflated Weed goes into 4th place. Oh, and Deton's had a crash with Flu.
Absolute carnage.
Absolute carnage indeed.
Top Gun's made his way past Smaller Smiley with the DRS down into turn 1. Pretty standard overtake there.
And Wiggles is in the pits to retire. So it's not looking good for 2nd place in the championship for him. He won't gain anything on John. Yellow's in sector 1 as Longson, I think, has made a mistake. As Iros J is right behind Flu. A 10th is the gap, and he goes around the outside of the Alpine into the long reprofiled left-hander. He's not going to be able to... He's just about with him there, and he's just made the move stick. I don't see how Flu can defend against that one. And he's not careful. Top Gun won't be too far behind. In fact, he's not too far behind at all, really. Yellow's in sector 3. I believe that is that guy. Blue's going for a move against the Ferrari. Red versus Blue down to turn 1. He's just made it stick. However, the McLaren is sitting very patiently behind all of them as they fight. As that guy comes into the pits. I think he's retiring from the session. Yeah, he is. As those two are still fighting. Well, Blue goes around the outside, and he's made some contact there. And how do you read that one?
I was on board with Top Gun the whole time. It looked like both were entitled to space, but I think it was just a racing incident for me. But I'll have to rewatch it again.
I think whoever the steward is for this race is going to be, he's going to have a very late night, I think it must be said.
I believe it's you, actually.
Oh dear, oh god, it is me! Actually no, there were no...
Clive did last one.
Clive had no clips from last time.
Well, you have to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Well, to be fair, I'm not quite sure what would happen with my offer. However, the offer available to Iros J is a little bit of space down to the inside to pass the McLaren. He goes up into 6th place with that move there. It's Deflated Weed, not too far behind Asperfrog. He's right behind him there. Looks like the Aston Martin is struggling. And he's overtaken him before he's got to turn 4. Lovely stuff.
I think Greg's done Top Gun an absolute solid this race. He went through turn 3 at 3/4 throttle. Just said, I know you're quicker than me, teammate. Go and get Ross.
I think we should call him Sergio Perez after this race.
Blue's going to retire in the pits.
Yeah.
Cut a little bit of the 3rd sector, hence the time penalties.
Oh,
and he's left and not retired. I think he meant to retire, but pressed quit instead.
He'll have to come in and make sure he retires then, just to abide by the rules. As Asperfrog, you see, not getting the exits he needs at all there. It looks like the Haas has left him for dead. Damon is next on Iros J's list, who's got Top Gun not too far behind. Iros J sets the fastest lap. The AlphaTauri knows he's coming, and I don't think he's going to fight this one too hard. No, he's not. Down the inside he goes. And the McLaren's not too far behind either. Look how close John is to the back of Damon there. He's just got so much more grip and so much more poise and confidence in that car that Damon doesn't really have much of a defense. Like, if he jumps down the outside, I can imagine the AlphaTauri will jump straight out of the way. He goes round the outside. He hasn't quite made the move stick. He's still around the outside coming into the next sector, though, but he's made the move stick. I gotta say, lovely bit of overtaking, but he's gone wide a little bit, and he's lost it again! I don't believe it! What is going on out there? Just when you think it's starting to come back for him, he's made another mistake.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I
We
know.
just can't get the rhythm. Either with a previous spin or a safety car coming out, and it just ruins your flow. Just takes a few consistent laps just to get you back into that rhythm, and sometimes you never get it back for the rest of the race.
Cyrus J gets the fastest lap. A smaller Smiley gets 2/10 and a lovely bit of DRS to overtake Greg. And I don't think this one's going to be... In fact, it's no contest at all. Smaller Smiley absolutely takes him to the cleaners. Should we see how the leaders are doing? Because they've... It's been like all the actions happen behind them. Looks like Hales is putting in a very strong drive.
Well, Flu's ghosted car is currently in the middle of the top two. So Sano might actually get some DRS here.
You're right, he has got DRS. Well spotted. I think Novatech, he's very fond of the whole let them cook quotes, isn't he?
When does a quote become overused? That's the question.
Or overcooked in this case. I am terrible, I know.
That was actually alright. Oh, yeah. Less cringy, more ingenious.
See, Steely was a fan of that.
Richard, red light flashing. Doesn't need the ERS. DRS power. Gets him past Damon. Up into P6.
Lovely bit of overtake there.
And Top Gun's passed Kimi into turn 1. I think Top Gun might be challenging for most overtakes in a single Grand Prix.
And I think Greg's going to have to give the award for how many times to give up a position to your teammates. Oh, and Deton's had a moment. He has gone off in his Red Bull. Yeah, Flu has left the session. So technically, the whole field is just a massive Alpine sandwich. That guy's left the session. Sano's done 14 laps, so I imagine if he's going to come in for a new set of boots, and yeah, he does come in, crucially. He doesn't invalidate, so I imagine Damon won't be too far behind in terms of coming into the pits. Yeah, I think he's in the pits as well. Ferrari haven't bottled the pit stop, and he gets out on the hard compound tyre. He's got about 17 laps to do as Top Gun sets the fastest time. He's right behind his teammate there, and I can imagine by next lap he'll have.
Oh, Sano has come out of the pits and spun.
That's a new one.
So obviously you come out of the pits on the right hand side of the track. I went to spectate him to see how he's doing, and I saw him completely spun round on the left hand side of the track.
That'll compromise his podium chances, surely, as Deton overtakes him, who was obviously on warmer tyres.
So not only does he need to get that muck off the tyres, but he's lost around 10 seconds to Padge and a place to Deton. So Sano's podium chances pretty much have gone now, unfortunately.
Unless there's another safety car.
Of course.
So Deaton has obviously overtaken his teammate. The 3 seconds now by Small Smiley. So let's look at the gap to the leaders. So currently Top Gun is 18.8 seconds behind Joseph Hales, who was leading this Grand Prix. I think realistically, even if there was no new safety car, he's not going to be able to claw 18 seconds in 16 laps. Let's see where the close battles are. So we got Padge and Kimi up against each other, and Deaton is there's a Ferrari goes around the outside. Bit of touch thing there with Deaton, and the Red Bull has to back out.
It was a little bit of a late lunge from Sano, but I mean, Deaton gave the space. He was partially alongside, so I guess Deaton would have seen it coming, but the contact obviously makes it a bit trickier.
I do think the move was definitely on. It's just,
yeah, definitely on.
Yeah.
Maybe just overcooked it on the brakes for Sano there.
So it looks like the field is starting to spread out with not really anyone in their DRSs as Joseph Hales sets the fastest lap. So I can imagine he's going to be coming in at the end of this, at the end of either this or the next lap, I imagine.
With Sano's issues, obviously, he can't be a net P2 right now, which means Joseph Hales has a 6-second lead. But, crucially, Deflator, we could go to the end on those hard tyres.
Top Gun into the pits. So he's going early onto those mediums. So he'll have plenty of fresh air when he comes out. I think in the AlphaTauri, he'll have that covered. And he hasn't spun it when he comes out the pits. Top Gun still having it all to do. It's Kimi now right on the back of Greg, and Padge not too far away from Kimi. So this looks like the closest battle so far. And Padge gets a 3-second... that's, I think, the first time penalty for track limits that we've seen all race. Anywho, it's slowly spreading out between the top two. So Joseph Hales is now in the pits. So let's see where he comes out. He's gone onto the mediums as predicted. Is he going to get out ahead of the Mercedes, who's come across the start-finish straight line now? And yeah, he'll be ahead of the Mercedes comfortably. Joseph Hales in a very good window coming out of the pits right now. He's got about 2 seconds to Small Smiley, and he's got 2.6 seconds ahead of Kimi as Greg comes into the pits. But that, if you want to make an undercut work, I mean, that's exactly what you need, isn't it? And look at that! Oh, it's just the connection. My bad. It just looked like he's gone straight off, and I was just like, oh no, what's he done? And then...
I've had that so many times.
Oh, he's struggling on those mediums just to warm them up, and he's lost about a second to Kimi. Oh, he's disconnected.
Oh, Joseph has lagged out. I'll do him a solid and invite him back immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
This Deflated Wheat has seen that and knows that this is his opportunity now to push.
Do you think he's going to the end?
I reckon he is.
Could be the right decision. Asperfrog, I have to say, he's had very quiet, but I have to say, he's had a brilliant race so far, isn't he?
And Joseph Hales' AI is pitting him.
What?
I do not believe it, onto a new set of mediums.
What is going on there?
Joseph has had the win ripped from his grasp, and I cannot remember a driver who's been this unlucky before.
That is cruel. He done nothing wrong the whole race. He had everything going for him, but just like that, he gets ripped away. That is cruel.
And he only pitted on lap 18, was it?
Yeah.
Or 17? So it's not like his tyres were old. His AI has just
Greg and Padge have had it coming
completely
together.
ruined it.
The end of Sector 1. Greg and Padge had it together. Sorry to interrupt you there, Tim, but...
Yeah, man, I can't believe how unlucky Joseph Hales has been. And when he comes back into this race, he's going to think, why am I in P9? He may not even know that his AI has pitted him.
I think he'll be happy to see this game goodbye.
I think we all are, to be honest.
Yeah, this hasn't been the best in terms of gaming quality. As IIRacingLeague goes ahead of Asthma Frog rather. Bloody hell!
That's the new one. And we are 2/3 of the way through this Grand Prix, and we already have 5 clips submitted to the steward.
Oh dear.
Have fun, Spark.
I'll try my best. I'll try my best. And Joseph Hales is still ghosted. Please tell me he can come back in soon. I mean, this is like having an engine failure in real life F1, or like your ERS failing, or having a Ferrari pit wall.
You had to go there, didn't you?
Look, it wouldn't be a Spark stream if I wasn't roasting Ferrari at some point. So we're 2/3 of the way through the race, so we'll just run you through the top 10. We have Deflated Wee in the lead, which you think he's going to the end. Richard is out in second, but is yet to stop. Small Smiley is in 13th and maybe going to the end, same as Kimmy. IIRacingLeague and Asperfrog have pitted, as has Sano. Top Gun has also pitted in 8th, with Joseph Hales getting screwed over by the AI and laggy connection in 9th, pursued by Damon, who is 10th in the AlphaTauri. Deton is currently in 11th, with Greg sitting in 12th rather. Padge is in 13th, and with Flew in the back, and I think he's out of the race in 14th.
Clip number 6 in the pending incidents.
I've just seen it.
It is going to be one of those races where you never know where anyone's going to finish at the end of the race.
I mean, did the racing gods just wake up this morning and think, you know what, IRL are having their no assist race, let there be carnage? And see IIRacingLeague right on the back of Kimmy. I think the Mercedes covering the inside very, very early against the Ferrari. But he goes back to the racing line. And he's not going to attempt to overtake here because he doesn't have the energy, and he goes so close to the back of him. You can just tell how confident the Ferrari is under braking on those medium tyres.
So after Deflated and Smaller got caught up in incidents in the first lap, find themselves both on the podium and in good positions to keep it. Man, this game is so unpredictable.
It certainly is. I think Richard has absolutely got to stop. I think he'll likely be going onto the soft compound tyre. As we see the Ferrari on the medium compound tyre just make quick work of the Mercedes, and IIRacingLeague has got 6.5 seconds to make up to Smaller Smiley to help his chances of getting a podium, and with 9 or 10 laps to go, it's not impossible because Smaller Smiley would have killed his tyres at that point. Deflated Wee, though, is going to be the interesting one. Can he go to the end and get home in a competitive state. Richard is getting...
Richard, by the way, has already stopped.
Oh, of course, he must have stopped at the first set. He stopped at the first...
He stopped on the very first lap when 3 cars came in for wing damage.
Oh,
So Richard very well could be going 32 laps on those hards.
Do you want to change your poll, by the way? You asked about the medium tyre, you got to ask about the hards now, surely.
I imagine the hard tyres can probably be extended. Especially with that safety car we had. But they will absolutely be as useful as a bag of marbles at the end of the race.
Well, if there's any consolation for Joseph Hale's vengeful spirit, he's at least keeping Damon at bay. Oh, and Padge has gone off again on the first sector. The Alfa Romeo is struggling.
I guess this race is kind of like a caution to everyone who has yet to race this week. Be careful on this track.
Yeah, because it is one of the spaces that's just going to bite as Top Gun sets the fastest lap, who's sitting right behind Asperfrog. Let's see what he does against Kimi. He goes down to the inside and he's made it stick. Lovely move there from Asperfrog. Pretty textbook, that one.
Top Gun in the background. Second time this race, he's been watching 2 people fight directly ahead of him.
But he'll be fancying this. He won't want to get in the way. However, he's throwing himself down the inside to the Mercedes. But he hasn't made the move stick. Now all this will be costing him time, so they're certainly going to... I mean, he's had an outside chance for a win anyway, ever since the numerous of incidents that he's had. Kimi goes wide, so that's going to let the McLaren go round the outside. Is he going to be ahead by the time he gets to the corner? Yes, he is just about, and it looks like John will have... Well, sorry, Top Gun, rather. Will have that move covered. Just Asperfrog now to go. Oh, and he's lost it!
Oh, Asperfrog.
And that's hit Top Gun as well, and that's going to allow Kimi back past. Oh. Because the gap between IIRJ and Small the Smiley is 2.6 seconds now.
He's been gaining 2 seconds a lap on Smaller.
Yeah, well, the podium for Smaller Smiley is washed now, isn't it? It's washed.
Depends if Richard pits.
Well, I think he's kind of snookered himself now. He's got to stay out.
Oh, Richard lagged out. He's just joined back.
So that explains why he's dropped 1.5 seconds to deflated wee.
Smaller's not really gained an awful lot though. Those hard tyres, not a nice place to be.
No, it's like, well, it's just as you said, it's like driving on the bag of marbles.
Seven laps after disconnecting, Joseph Hales is back. And I'm not too sure if he knows that his AI has pitted him.
Imagine if we did post-race interviews on, just to get Joseph Hale's perspective. I don't think he's a very happy guy. He's still ghosted. But he's still got to select his car, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll be taking control as we speak.
Now we got the Ferrari right on the back of the Alfa Romeo. I don't think it's going to be much of a contest here. Smaller Smiley really can't put up too much of a fight. IIRacing goes down to the inside. But fair play to Smaller Smiley, he's still trying to fight it. But looks like the Ferrari will just have him covered. He's got so much more grip, and it just plain out drives him. Now with 6 laps to go, interesting to see what he can do against Richard and Deflated Wee, who I'm convinced now they've got to be going to the end. 26 laps.
6 laps remaining. Ross 7 seconds behind. And yellows in sector 2.
I think that was
Joseph.
No, that was Flu, I think.
I think it was Joseph. I think he's lost a load of time today, man.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It is Joseph. Going behind, we've got Asper Frog, who's now still stuck behind Kimmy. And Top Gun is only 3.4 behind Smaller Smiley. IIRoss J is now 6.6 behind Richard. It's a very outside chance here, but if you can do 2 seconds a lap against Deflated and Richard, could be in with a shot of potentially a win, but it is a very big ask.
But Richard is closing on Deflated. Gap has shrunk by a second in the last lap.
5 to go.
I'll check their race directors, see their last laps. Deflated Wee just did a 22.3. Richard just did a 21.2. 1.1 seconds quicker.
Well, IIRoss J, what did he do?
Let's have a look. 20.2, so a full second quicker than Richard.
Oh, it's on. It's on.
I think we must have had a mistake. Because I think the gap has stabilised now this lap.
Could be a very late charge, but second place could be possible for IIRoss J. But like you said, it is starting to stabilise the gaps. We'll see everybody's fastest lap. Top Gun has currently got the fastest lap with a 19.2, followed by IIRoss J's done a 19.6. I think Top Gun's definitely on for 4th here. He's just not going to be able to catch IIRoss J, I feel. Oh, but he loses the rear end.
Richard, another 4 tenths off the race lead.
And Deton's had an off in the Red Bull.
How is Richard doing this pace on 28 lap old hard tyres?
Simple. Alien. IIRoss J, crucially, only 8.2 seconds off the lead. It's all closing up now. We could be in for a really close finish. But I think, to your point, Sun God, the fact that Richard's been able to do that pace on those hard compound tyres, which I imagine will be crying right now for a little bit of respite. It's got 3.9 seconds to go for IIRoss J.
Hello, TD.
Oh, and he's gaining. He's gaining on Deflated still. Maybe he's just taken easy.
3 more tenths out of the race lead for Richard, but at this pace, it's not going to be enough.
10-10 retired.
We had a big turn 1 and turn 2 incident. 3 people had to change their front wings. 10-10 retired as a result in the pits. And a whole load of people, I think every member of management has had a mistake at some point in this race. But it's just been one of those races where...
Oh, and Kimmy's round.
Where everything has happened. Joseph Hales was leading this race and looked to be a certainty for the win, leading by 6 seconds, but then he lost connection for 7 laps and his AI pitted him unnecessarily.
And thinking the AI is just pitting him again. He's still ghosted. .2 the gap to the leaders now for IIRacingLeague. This is going to be such a close finish.
Wee is really struggling.
Oh, absolutely, he's struggling. Joseph Hales has made a mistake. It's like he's just
22.5 for Wee and a 21.2 for Richard. 1.3 out of the race lead.
You think it would be raining right now? Oh, and Joseph Hales parked in danger location. He's now been disqualified.
Wonder if he was beached.
No,
Not too sure.
I saw his screen. I don't think he was beached. So 4.2 to the lead for IIRacingLeague. 1.9 now the gap between Deflated and Richard. This has been a hell of a drive from the Red Bull, hasn't it? 30 laps on those hards.
Richard pitted on lap 1 for wing damage, went from mediums to hards, and very well could have a shot at maybe one overtake for the race win.
Albeit
it's a bit too far.
A very slim
He really
one
needs DRS down this main straight, Richard, but he needs to gain half a second just in this final sector.
I think Deflated's just taking it easy. Like, he's got...
There's taking it easy, and then there's going for a Sunday drive. Wee is really struggling here.
And the gap, as you say that, Tim, is coming down to 1.2 seconds. IIRacingLeague only 3 seconds back from the leaders. This is the last lap, and we're looking for a very, very close finish, that has to be said. Richard has done 31 laps on those hards and is 1.4 seconds off the lead. IIRacingLeague has come in with only 13 laps on say. Longson has disqualified as well. Smaller Smiley has also been disqualified, so not quite sure what's going on here. A lot of DQs. I don't know whether there's been a glitch or something.
There must be a glitch. It says that Smaller Smiley was disqualified for not using 2 tyre compounds, but he did. He started on mediums and finished on hards.
This race is going to be an... I'm sorry, but this race is... It can't glitch people out for the sake of a win, but hopefully that's not going to be the case when the leaders come across the start-finish straight. The Smaller Smiley started on mediums.
I know, Smaller, that's stupid.
Let's see what happens when the leaders come across the line. It's going to be a brilliant drive so far for Deflated Wee. He's coming across the chicane now. And Richard has held on for the lap of his life with the car behind with 31 laps. But it is Deflated's day. He wins the Spanish Grand Prix. 28 laps on those hards. Richard does 32. Brilliant driving, it has to be said. IIRacingLeague finishes in 3rd. Top Gun in 4th. Sano finishes in 5th, with Asthma Frog due to come across the line in 6th. Kimmy is in 7th, coming across the line. Decent result.
Smaller. Sorry, Spot. Smaller. Make sure you got a clip of what happened.
Yeah.
And send it to the stewards regardless, because that may be something that we can look at.
Absolutely, we ought to. Because that 5th place should stand, but as far as Joseph Hales is concerned...
Oh, Diesel might get Gregor in the line. Oh, it's
close. It's so close!
Oh, not quite.
Oh, that was very close indeed. As Padge is the last one to come across the line. Make sure you send that clip in, Smaller Smiley, because we'll definitely take a look at that one for you. As Padge goes a little bit wide over the chicane. So we had weird DNFs disqualifying. I have no idea what that situation has been. Padge is waiting. I think he might do...
The slowest spin in existence.
I don't know whether I should be proud or embarrassed about that one.
Nah, it's just funny.
Yeah, absolutely. As Padge comes across the line, here we have a very chaotic race with, strangely enough, some weird old decisions that the game has made. Some drivers getting disqualified. Really? I thought we were teammates. I thought we were friends.
I mean, who would you say is driver of the day, Spark?
Oh, that is going to be a tough one. I'll probably say, because of the stint he pulled on those hards, I'd probably be inclined to give it to Richard. He's done 32 laps on those hard compound tyres. I think that's got to be worth. It's got to be worth at least a mention, or if not driver of the day. Deflated Wee has put in a comfortable drive, so I would be tempted to give it to him.
Special mentions definitely Asma Frog, Kimmy.
Yeah.
Good gains through the field.
Top Gun for his brilliant pole.
And oh, people are mocking you. 1010 is officially now world champion. You can say that.
Well, if you guys saw the front of the stream, I had the egg on my face. He's not racing, so technically he was champion. So I was right anyway. So there we go, guys. We'll take you through the top 10. So Deflated Wee wins with Richard in second place in the Red Bull. Iros J is in third, with Top Gun getting the fastest point for fastest lap in fourth. With fifth, Asper Frog is sixth is Insano. Seventh is Kimmy. With eighth, it being Damon. Greg is in ninth and D-Tone's 10th. This is all subject to change. Say, TD is like, okay, 1010 is world champion. Happy?
Well, I mean, if we're getting more of that this week, then I think we should be preparing ourselves now for Thursday's Grand Prix.
Yeah, and the last one, and I think it's quite fitting for us to finish in Suzuka, of all places, which was the original final Grand Prix before Abu Dhabi decided to steal its crown.